Good morning and namaste, friends. I hope everything is fine. Can you see me and hear me? I would appreciate if you would put in the comment. So I would begin with my presentation. Thank you. So today's topic on which I am going to talk is Indian presence on world banknotes. So I am a proud engineer and I'm tracing its presence on world banknotes. Now the question here is why banknotes? See, I could have traced it on coins, on stamps, or on anything else. But you see, coin stamps, these are instruments of lower value. And time and again, commemorative issues of these have been released to, celebrate different occasions. But banknote, it has a higher value, a higher status because it stays for a longer period of time. The design is not changed so often. There are high denomination banknotes which hold so much value. In fact, it is a representative of your nation because there is foreign exchange, physical currency being exchanged as well. So, if you are very certain about reflecting something, only then you do it on coin or on a banknote. Or if you are sure about it, or if you feel it is so prominent, so important for you, only then you represent it on banknotes. Okay, so let's begin. This is something about me. So I have done my master's in accountancy and finance. I am a certified technical analyst and I am a stock market trader based near Mumbai. Also, still the lockdown hasn't opened quite yet in Mumbai. So after that, I'll be planning to take on a role of a professor. I'll be teaching subjects in commerce. My collection journey started from my early childhood days where I started collecting these Pokemon Tazos. I know how many of you are aware about it, but then these are things like those WWE cards, wrestling cards, cricket cards. From there, then I, ventured into stamps, then coins, and then finally, I have stick to banknotes. I've been collecting for 8 years and 4 5 years pretty sincerely. I'm a member of local collector groups like THC and the OFB, international groups like IBNS and ANA, which stands for International Banknote Society and American Numismatic Society. So once again, welcome to my presentation and welcome to my nation. So India needs no introduction, but still, I'll just say a few words. It is the melting pot of different cultures, diversity, colors, languages. It has been an ancient trade dominator. The oldest universities, oldest languages, oldest civilizations have, oldest religions have also been born and thrived here. So that's why here I begin my journey to trace these elements on banknotes of different nations. So let's just pick each of these aspects one by one and explore. Religion. Okay, so India has given birth to many prominent religions. One of them is the Hindu Sanatana Dharma. You can see on right that is uh, the Dashavatara, and then Hindu Sanatana Dharma has given birth or influenced many other religions like Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. So all these religions have thrived here because of the comfortable atmosphere that has been provided here. And then the principle of these religions have spread far and far, and the principles were inculcated by the people of other nations as well, and thus they ended up being reflected on banknotes. So let's just see some. Okay, so let's start with Hinduism here. So this is on the top, a Indonesian 20,000 rupiah note which has the image of Hindu deity Lord Ganesha. Mind you, Indonesia is a Muslim majority country. 90% of the population is Muslim. So how is an Indian god sitting up there? So I read this somewhere that once while interviewing, sorry, uh, the then Indonesian finance minister said that in 1997 The Indonesian inflation rate was around 6%, which is quite reasonable. But then it peaked to more than 58% within a year. In 1998, it was at 58%. So they they tried many methods to curb it, control it. It just wouldn't work. The currency was depreciating daily. So this one last attempt by them, because of their earlier beliefs, they put the image of Lord Ganesha on the note. Now Ganesha is the remover of obstacle, the god of wisdom, the god of intellect, and he is known as Vigna Harta, the remover of obstacles. So they put this, and guess what? It actually worked. It actually worked. Now, is it really that the other methods they tried, they showed result later, or is it just, the deity that did the work? You won't know, but it actually worked. Within a year, the inflation rate was down to 20%, and another year after that, it was down to 4%, which is superb, phenomenal. So this stayed, like the belief or the superstition, whatever you call it, stayed there, and the DT stayed on the note till 2004. After that, they had changed the design of all the notes. So, even this got changed. So it stayed there. So, you see how that, and that is the reason I started my presentation with this. Because in Indian Hindu rituals, everything you do starts with offering prayers to Lord Ganesha. So, here's my tribute to him by starting my presentation with him. So another interesting Indonesian connect here is earlier when it was under Netherlands occupation, it was called as Netherlands Indies. So when the during World War II, the Japanese conquered and occupied Netherlands Indies, they had issued currency there, and the 100 Rupiah note featured Lord Vishnu sitting on Garuda. So again, Lord Vishnu is one of the most revered gods in India. You can say he is the maintainer among the Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesha. So he was featured here. So now you're wondering how come even long back an Indonesian note features this. So the interesting part here is that Indonesia, like major parts of Indonesia, were once ruled by a Hindu king from the Chola dynasty. So the culture, the principles of this religion, it stayed there. The belief stayed there, although they are Muslims, but there is a cultural fusion going on there. So it's reflected on their banknotes. Buddhism. So again, Buddhism started thriving from India, and then it has reached all over the world now. So Cambodia, a 90% Buddhist country. So here you can see a Cambodian 100 real notes from 2014, and it has a statue of Buddha in between, Gautama Buddha. You can also see a Naga statue there. But surprisingly, the image on this note was protested by the Buddhist groups there and also the cultural groups there. How come? They should be happy, right? But the thing is, they said 100 reals is the lowest denomination of Cambodia. And they said that Buddha is of the highest status, and you put him on the lowest denomination note. And also, they said that money is not handled properly. The image of Buddha should not be handled roughly. You fold money, you put it in your pocket, where women keep their money. So that happened, and they took serious offense about it. But since the group was small, the protests were peaceful, the government didn't pay any heed, and the banknote is still being used there. Another interesting example is this Afghani note from 1939, which features the Bamiyan Valley, where there is the Bamiyan Buddha. I have, placed this picture of the actual Buddha there. But in 2001, this was destroyed by the Taliban. So the Buddha statue was destroyed. Now they have used 3D holographic technology, lighting technology, and you can see the Buddha there. But the real statue, which was the tallest standing statue of Buddha, has been destroyed. And here again, the Indian connect here is Hinduism and Buddhism both reflected on one banknote. So again, you can see on the bottom, this is a Cambodian note, 50 reals from 1979, which has Angkor Wat. So Angkor Wat complex temple, it is the largest religious monument in the world. Not just Hindu, not just Buddha, but among all the religion, it is the largest religious monument. So the interesting thing about this, again, it was built by a Hindu king. So it was a Hindu temple dedicated to Lord Vishnu. It was built in the early 20th century, but later in that same century, it was converted to a Buddhist temple. So earlier it was a Hindu temple, then it was converted into a Buddhist temple. So there's a representation of both things on this bank again. So just you saw how magnificent that temple was, correct? So the legends started roaming, spreading around that these massive constructions are going on. They have a lot of money. The Indians, the Bharatiya, what earlier they used to refer as, or Hindustani. So they have a lot of money there, spices, gold. It was like a trader's paradise. Everybody wanted to deal with India. So here you can see a picture of traditional Indian traders, and then here you can see the sea routes to India. How every explorer, how every country just wanted to connect with India. So these are the naval routes to that. So the Europeans also came from down bottom. There, the Cape of Good Hope. They revolved around it and came to India. So you can see everybody wanted to trade with India, right? So we'll just try to find one of these quests. This is the European quest, which is represented on banknotes. In the right side, the top note is a 2000 escudo note. So these are all notes from Portugal. So the 2000 escudo note features a sailor, an explorer called Dias, who in 1488 realized that there could be a sea route to India, and why not explore it? So he was the first European who went down from Africa, who revolved around the Cape of Good Hope. So first one to cross the Cape of Good Hope, the European explorer, was this guy. And then he actually landed in some African countries, and those countries got discovered. So I'm pretty sure you are aware of, how in the quest of India, many other countries have got discovered. Indian, American, just the most common one, is West Indies. Columbus thought that, he has arrived in India, so he called the natives their Indians. So, you know, this is represented there very beautifully. And then now on the left, from Mr. Dyer's experience, Vasco da Gama now had a more better route in his hand. So the note, the top part, the front features Vasco da Gama, and the back features him with the authorities in Calicut, where he landed in 1497. So finally, Vasco da Gama was successful to reach India. He reached there, and then he met with the authorities there, and they were not very welcoming to him, mainly because he was not a Muslim. Why? Because India was under Islamic rule, and that area was dominated by Muslim merchants. So he and his fellow shipmen were not Muslim, so they were not welcome then. And also one another thing was the quality of products he had were very cheap. These quality products were actually traded very well in Africa, but for these rich, sophisticated Muslim who traded in exotic goods, this was just tourist trash. So they rejected him. Still, he somehow managed. He went back, and then finally, when coming back to the right side bottom note, that is a 1000 escudo note, which features Pedro Alvarez Cabral in the front, and on the back, his ship and the animals from Brazil. Now you wonder, I am talking about the quest for India. And what is Brazil doing here? So this guy sailed for India, and from the experience of Vasco da Gama, he had learned that Vasco da Gama had, faced some trouble in the Gulf of Guinea, rough waters. So to avoid that, he went a little bit south and westward, and he reached Brazil. So he was the one who is accredited to discover Brazil from Europe. So that is why Brazilian notes of features that he stayed there 10 days, then again left for India, reached to Calicut. Again, the same thing, the Muslims attacked him. Then he used his gunpowder, firepower, cannon power, and captured 10 of their ships, executed everybody on board, and then he finally went to Cochin, which is another place in India, another port. So the European quest has been, represented here beautifully. And then the Portuguese also colonized few parts of India, and the prominent colony, their prominent colony was Goa. So the rest of India got independent in 1947, but Goa was still under their rule till 1961 because it was so dear to them. So it was a really struggle. So let's start with the bottom note. So bottom note is a 20 escudo note from 1971, which on the reverse features the 16th century market scene from Goa. Pretty, good. So this is a note from Portugal, but it is showing a place in India, depicting a place in India. Interesting, right? And the top note again on the left, you can see Mr. Vasco da Gama, and on the right, you can see his first armada for India, the fleet of ships for his first voyage to India, which has been depicted here. And one interesting thing related to this particular 500 escudo notes from 1932 is a man named Alves Reyes. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but a man named Alves Reyes, he falsified authorization documents of the Bank of Portugal and went to the banknote printing company and said that Portugal wants to do development in one of their colonies called Angola, Portuguese Angola. So they wanted to do development there, and for that they need money, and this is the contract to print more money. So this guy, he was successful in doing all this, and many fakes of these notes were printed. Although it was almost impossible to distinguish between the two notes because it was actually not a fake. He went to a proper banknote company which had originally printed these notes. So you see, there was no way to distinguish. Eventually, they figured it out. If you want more, you can read. You can remember the name, Alves Riaz. Okay, so right now we saw about trade, and trade needs money. So I'm pretty sure every one of you is familiar with the word rupees. So it is derived from the Sanskrit word Rupiah come, which means wrought silver or casted silver or silver in shape. So one of the early references was by Panini, and another major reference is showed here. It is a Rupiah Rupa coin from the Mauryan Empire in 3rd century BC. This was mentioned by Chanakya, who was the prime minister to the Mauryan king, in his book called Arthashastra. So you can see this coin, it has punch marks on it, and the name actually suggests that. So Rupiah means silver, and Rupa is roop or shape. So silver in shape, that it what it literally means. So this is how the rupee started, and then some other kings issued some other coins with other names. Everything happened, and then again in 1540, Sher Shah Suri issued coins called Rupiah, and that is where it again started gaining importance. And in 77, Bank of Hindustan started issuing notes with paper money with rupees on it. So this is very interesting. Indians were so dominant in trade. India had such a importance in the trading world that the Indian currency was not only used in India but in a lot of country outside. So here are a few examples. Asian countries like Afghanistan, Bhutan, Burma. Burma is now Myanmar. Ceylon is now Sri Lanka. The Indian protectorate is now Yemen. So these countries used the Indian rupee. Gulf countries like Iraq, Oman, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, the crucial states. So crucial states. I'm sorry. Crucial states is the UAE now, and African countries like East African Protectorate, which now is Kenya, Uganda, Somalia, and Zanzibar is now Tanzania. So they used Indian money, proper Indian currency among themselves. So you can see how from Asian countries to Gulf countries to African countries, everybody used Indian rupee. But there were countries who had their own version of rupee. So they had taken the name rupee, but they started printing their own rupee. So this is an example from Afghanistan, a 50 rupees note from 1919. And then below that is when Burma was occupied by Japanese in the World War II, they also issued rupees. So a 5 rupee note there. This is from Nepal, one Nepali rupee. It also has the Pashupatina temple, a prominent Hindu temple. So Nepal has a very close cultural and religious ties with India because it was the only Hindu nation in the world. But again, few years back, it turned secular. So that it was the last Hindu country in the world, and it's no more in the country. Now it's a secular state. And then on the bottom, you have Maldivian 500 Rupiah. You see how the words have been, slightly altered. Rupiah from the original Rupiah. African countries, you can see when Somalia was under Italian occupation, they also used Rupiah, 1 Rupiah. Seychelles still uses rupees as their currency. So this is Seychelles rupee, 500 rupee note here. So even Australian occupied territories. Now you can just imagine how all continents, different continents, the spread of the rupee were. They had their islands, Cocos Islands, which issued, and then later the merged authorities of Keeling and Coco Islands issued together. So you can see these are fractional denominations of 1/4 rupee and 1/10 rupee. Just a map summarizing the entire thing here. You can just have a look at it. From Germany, East Africa, Seychelles, Oman, everywhere the rupee was spread. Even Malaysia used rupees. So first we saw trade, then for trade we need money, but where is money printed? So India got its printing press in 1928. It was inaugurated on April 14 in 1928 in Nasik, a city in Maharashtra, in India. So they started printing Indian notes here, but they were not limited to that. They started printing currency notes for other countries as well. Yeah, this is the interesting part. So currency notes for 8 other countries were printed in India as well. So it included, you can say, Burma, Ceylon, which is again Sri Lanka, and then Nepal, and Bangladesh, and Pakistan, Iraq, East Africa. Such countries had their notes printed in India. And then Gulf rupee. Again, the Gulf rupee was made specially for the Gulf countries of Kuwait, Bahrain, Oman, the crucial states UAE, so Qatar. So they used the Gulf rupee, which was again printed in India, and especially for pilgrims going to Hajj in Saudi Arabia, there was money printed in India. You can see this is an image of the security printing press in Nasik. Just a few examples. This is on the top an East African note. The denominations of 5, 10, 20 shillings were printed in India in the 1940s. So again, a similar contract of printing notes was given to a company in London called Thomas de la Rue. So they also printed. So the way to distinguish between the two is looking at the serial number. The serial number style is different for notes printed in Nasik, so you can identify it that way. On the bottom is a Iraqi note featuring Baby King Faisal II, which was issued in the denomination of 1/4, half, and 1 dinar, again printed in India, Nasik. Bhutanese note Gultrams were printed 1, 5, 10, 100 in 1970s. Ceylon, again, which is now Sri Lanka, had their rupees printed in the 1940s in India. Almost all denominations were printed here. I would quickly like to mention this as well. So the issuing authorities, which have some Indian connect or Indian name to it. East India Company obviously issued notes for India, but it also issued notes for Burma and South Africa. The Chartered Mercantile Bank of India and China, and also issued notes for Sri Lanka, and the Bank of Western India, which was actually started in Western India, but then reconstituted as the Oriental Bank. So even the Ceylon branch printed notes for Sri Lanka, and then Chartered Bank of India, Australia, and China printed notes for Hong Kong and early notes for Thailand, and Chartered Mercantile Bank of India, London, and China, and Mercantile Bank of India printed notes for Hong Kong. So again, we were talking about money notes. So you can see here is a 10 rupee note from India. On the reverse, there is a language panel, and you can see how many different languages have been featured here. Why is it so? Because again, India is a diverse nation. People with different languages, dialects stay here together, peace and harmony. So you can see how many different languages have thrived here. India has a very rich linguistic heritage. So one of the arguably oldest language, I would like to believe, because that is an Indian language, it is Tamil. So there are records showing that it might be the oldest language. And then there is Sanskrit. Again, some say it is the oldest, but still it is that is arguable, but it is richest for the sure. The literature available in Sanskrit is not comparable to anything, and even the grammar so precise, so perfect, that it is the most apt language with a computer. You heard it right, yeah. With a computer, the most apt language which fits it the best is Sanskrit. You can Google it up. So, let's just explore how these Indian languages were featured on banknotes of other countries. Let's try to trace them. So, Hindi was featured on Azerbaijan note. So, Azerbaijan was part of the Soviet Union at that time. 1,000 ruble note featured Hindi. I have, maximized the language part here. 1,000 ruble, which translates to 1,000 ruble. Gujarati. So here you can see this is a note from Zanzibar, present day Tanzania. So the rupees from 1908 till 1928 had Gujarati on it. Why is that? Because a lot of Parsis from Gujarat in India went there as merchants and then worked there as civil servants as well. So they became one of the biggest Parsi communities outside India. They were that good at it, and that is the reason Gujarati got featured on it. And another interesting case is the East African Protectorate, like I mentioned earlier, Kenya, Uganda, Somalia, those places. So it again has Gujarati on it in rupees and in shillings as well. So what happened was these people, a lot of Gujaratis, were taken there as laborers to work on the Kenyan Ugandan railway line. They were taken there to work as laborer, but then so many of them were taken there and they started settling there. That was the problem. It was not like they were returning back. They started settling there. They adopted the culture there. The East African government had to pass a law in 1940s that there should be less inflow of immigrants to control these immigrants. But by that time, it was too late. So by late 1940s, 80 to 90% of all the commercial trade in East Africa was controlled by these Gujaratis who were laborers and now business owners. So that is why Gujaratis is regarded as one of the best business communities in India and all over the world. People from abroad who are watching, you might have heard a Patel in your heard about a Patel guy who is rich and who is a business owner in your surrounding there as well. I'm pretty sure there is one Patel everywhere. So Urdu and Bengali. Bangladesh was earlier a part of India, an Indian state called Bengal. Later it was partitioned to Pakistan, and then later it formed its own separate country. So it still has Bengali featured on its note. And Pakistan, obviously, in 1947, India was divided on the basis of religion. So the Indian Muslims who usually prefer speaking Urdu, most of them went there, and so Urdu is featured on the Pakistani rupee. And again, Urdu is of Indian origin. Now let's take a small case study here. This is Indian languages on notes of Mauritius. So on the left, you can see this is a note of Mauritius from 1919. Okay. So on the top, there is the denomination 1 rupee written in Tamil, and below that, it is written in Kaithi, which is either Bhojpuri, Avdi, or the languages from northern India. So basically, these languages come from a state which are a bit poor or a bit backward in India. And now, the thing that surprised me was how come a state which is slightly backward compared to other states, monetarily and otherwise, that language features on notes of Mauritius. Really, I was wondering. So when I researched about it, I came to know that in the 19th century, early 19th century, slavery was abolished, but the British needed to get their work done. So what they did was they came up with some other form of slavery called indenture servitude. In this, the indenture laborers voluntarily go and say in front of the magistrate that we want to go there, we are doing this voluntary, will work, and then they sign a contract called girmit, in which minimum 5 years they have to serve wherever they have been sent, and it can be extended by more another 5 years, and they are paid rupees 5 per month. In today's terms, rupees 5 comes to around 8 cents US dollar. So that was what they were being paid. So a lot of laborers from those northern states of UP and Bihar went there, and that is why Bhojpuri was on Mauritius notes, and also from Tamil Nadu, and that's why Tamil is also featured. So you can see Tamil is on top, and then on the bottom there is Kaithi, Bhojpuri. Later, this Bhojpuri, slightly as more Indians started coming there, they started writing Hindi because that is a more generic language for all the people. So this is one interesting case that happened there. Hindi and Tamil, or Tamil and Hindi. So like we saw before, I will just go back once. Tamil is on top and Kaithi, or you can just say Hindi, is on bottom. But in 1998, when the Mauritius government issued a new note, the Bank of Mauritius issued a new note with a different design. They wrote Hindi above and Tamil below it. The reason was, as you can see, I have zoomed out. You can see on the top the Tamil text is almost touching the ear, but not actually encroaching the border. But just imagine if it was up and the Hindi words were below. So if the Tamil was on top, it would have encroached the ears very easily, encroached on the portrait. And this is the reason why they switched the language order. But the Tamil population was not going to buy that. They started huge protests there. The protests were so intense that within a month, the government had to reissue the notes. Although the Tamilian population there is 10% and Hindi speaking population is 40%, but still the protests were so rigorous. So again, within 1 month in 1999, all the denominations were corrected. You can now see the font has been made smaller, the text has been made smaller. Otherwise it would definitely have increased, but now they made it smaller and then they placed it above. So the reason for the Tamilian protest was very simple, that it has been going for age long. Tamil is above and other languages written below. Why do you want to change it? And also they claim dominance over the island, saying that we arrived here first. So that is why they want that. So pretty interesting, right? So how Indian culture is again being reflected there, and then there is some these kind of small fights going on there, but not in India, in some country abroad. So like we were discussing, the people and culture, it spread. India has so many plethora of culture, like variety of cultures going on here, and it's all mixing. It's a melting pot. And the Indian diaspora outside India is more than 32 million. So there are more than 32 million people living outside India, and still maintaining their roots to the Indian culture, and that is being represented on banknotes as well. You can see on the left is a Sri Lankan 100 rupee note, which features a girl doing Bharatanatyam, and similarly a Singapore $10 note, again featuring a girl doing Bharatanatyam. So Bharatanatyam is a southern Indian traditional dance form. So again, Fiji has around 40% Indian origin population. So you can see a woman wearing a sari, which is a traditional Indian attire for women, and then a $2 again a newer $2 note which features a Sikh man. So again, if you remember in the religion slide, I said that India gave birth even to Sikhism. So these Sikhs again went out for business for other purposes and got featured. They integrated with the cultures. Singapore has a lot of cultural connections with India. There's a $50 note which has a Sikh military person and a woman wearing a sari, and a $20 note which features Mr. P. Govindaswamy Pillai. So he's popularly known as PGP because he had some PGP stores named PGP sari stores. He was working. He had a job there, but eventually started a business, became a pretty wealthy man, and then he funded a lot of Hindu temples in Singapore. So this Singaporean note on the bottom represents the 8 pioneers of modern Singapore, and he's one of them. So there are some other few notable presents out there. You can see this is on the left. You can see the portrait of Le Corbusier. So he is regarded of as the one of the greatest architects of the modern era. You heard it right. The greatest architect of modern era, Le Corbusier. So here you can see there's a design for the High Court of Punjab and Haryana, which is in Chandigarh. So the capital city for Punjab and Haryana is same, the two states of India. So there's the High Court of it. Then there are details of the Secretariat building featured on this, and this is a Swiss banknote. Yes. So a banknote of Switzerland is showing details about the capital building in Chandigarh in India. So you see such amazing Indian connects are present out there. Again, this is a bit long connect, but still. So when Tibet decided to issue their own banknotes, what you need is gold reserves to issue notes. So they bought imported gold from India, 300 ingots, golds of 27 tola each. So tola is 10 grams. So they imported it from India, and also the ink on which the notes are, from which the notes are printed, came from India. So the Indian ink is pretty famous, by the way. So those inks were used here, and I believe these were natural inks. And then this is another Indian connect, Falklands Island. So we are going South America now. So this design on their reverse side of the banknote was used for a long time there, from King George V till Queen Elizabeth. And this was designed by a guy named T.I. Archer, popularly known as Henry Archer. So Mr. Archer was the head engraver and designer of the Nashik security printing press for a long time, and he conceptualized this design in Nashik, in India, and this was used in a South American country in Falkland Islands. You know. Okay. Now you might be wondering why is the Queen here? So you can see these beautiful portraits of the Queen. Now on the top you can see the three portraits, and you can also see that she's wearing a diamond necklace. So this was gifted to her by the Nizam of Hyderabad and Berar, which is in India. And again, on the bottom right portrait, she's wearing a tiara and earrings. So the diamonds in the tiara and earrings again came from the Nizam. So you see the glamour of the queen was sponsored by India. And these portraits were featured on countries of more than 22 nations. So 22 nations used portraits of queen, these portraits. So you can just see everywhere there is an Indian connect. A quick honorary mention here is the notes of Lord Sri Ram, which is again one of the very revered gods of Hinduism, and you might have heard pretty much in news these days. So I recently found this note on left which says Maharaja Tokyo 1 rupee. I don't know much about it. I do have some clues, but I'm not sure about it. That's why I'm not mentioning. If anybody has substantial information about this, please get in touch with me. On the right is what we call Vishwa Shanti Rashtra, GCWP, Global Country for World Peace, which was founded by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. So he issued banknotes called Ram, featuring his photo. So it was issued in the denomination 1, 5, 10, and there are two variants of this. One which was circulated in Europe, Netherlands, so it has a overprint called of Netherlands on it, and the exchange rate was 1 ram is equal to 10 euro. So the 10 ram note is equivalent to 100 euros, and the one which was circulated in United States, the American version, the exchange rate, it did not had any overprint, so the exchange rate for that one was 1 ram is equal to $10. So the 10 ram note would be $100. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. I thank you everyone for watching. I thank THC to give me this opportunity to present. And again, my friends, family who helped me with this, Mr. Anish Mehta, who motivated and encouraged me to do this presentation, and other friends who helped me build this presentation, Sri Rezwan Razak, Dharmesh Bhai, Sheetal Kumar Bhai, Minaj Bhai, Sairaj Bhai, everybody who helped me getting info for this presentation. Thank you to all and everyone. Thank you for watching. We can start taking questions now. So one other thing before a question arrives on my screen is that I have not included all the information I had. I was just trying to summarize. Okay, how many notes shown here in my collection? But until today, I had no idea about the Indian connection and influence on the fashion. Yes, Bia, thank you. Even I didn't know. I've been researching for this for a couple of months, and there are many more which I will share. But this was just an overview of it. Many POI featured on Mauritian notes and one in Singapore. Absolutely, Ajay. The Mauritius 2000 note has Mr. Ram Gulam, if I'm not wrong. So he was the president of Mauritius, and he was person of Indian origin. And the Singapore commemorative note I showed in this presentation, it featured Mr. Govind Swami Pillai. So I have not kept a specific count right now because for this presentation I have just presented few countries. But if we go, it definitely crosses more than 50 countries which have this Indian link, and there are pretty more I'm sure because there are countries like Suriname which have 40 Reunion Islands which have 40-50% of Indian population of origin. I'm pretty sure that I will find something on their notes which has an Indian connect. So the research is still going, but definitely more than 50. Yeah, I know the Azerbaijan note was interesting, but yeah, but I actually saw all the Azerbaijan notes as much as I can, Trans-Caucasian notes, but I couldn't find any other else. I don't know why, but only the two variants of 1,000 rubles have Hindi on them. It was shocking for me as well when I found out. It was pure luck. Yes, Pratham. So Kaithi, the script I told, Kaithi was also used for Old Gujarati. So you can either say it is Gujarati or you can say Bhojpuri, it doesn't matter, but it was the numerals was Kaithi. Absolutely, Dharmesh Bhaiya, we can do that. And definitely, if anyone wants to collaborate, join, you contributed a lot to this research. We can definitely write an article or maybe a book as well. It doesn't seem that distance, right? We can do it. Any more questions, or just I will randomly show some notes here. So this is the Portuguese note I was talking about. It features the Goan market here. You can see this is Goa. So this is the note, and the person on front, Mr. Orta. Yes, Garcia de Orta. So he specialized in medicine and everything, and he was there in Goa and he researched here. And then there is this East African note. It has Gujarati here. You can see B shilling, and then there are other notes, these Mauritian notes. Again, the woman in sari, and this one I didn't show in my presentation, but you can see this is an Indian school girl here, Indian origin girl here, and these are the like two Mauritian notes for comparison. You can see on the top Hindi is above and Tamil is below it, and here Tamil is above and Hindi is below it. Okay, I think there are more questions. We can take questions back again. Okay, no questions. I would love to know more about the Ram currency. Absolutely, absolutely. So the Ram currency was started by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. So the reason for it was he wanted to contribute to world peace. So he made this organization, and then it circulated in Netherlands and some small places in USA as well. So in USA, it is termed that around $40,000 worth notes are circulating in USA alone. So his pledge was to bring global peace to this world. So it features Lord Rama, which is known as Maryada Purushottam, or a very principled and disciplined man, and his kingdom called Ram Rajya was known for the most thriving and peaceful kingdom. So he thrives. He wants that peace to be reflected in the world. Okay, so I think that's it. Or are there any more questions? Yes, yes, yes. There are many more notes. I have featured only few just for the sake of this presentation. There are more which features Goa. Any polymer currency linked to the Indian topic? Absolutely. So you can see the Maldivian Rupiah, which has this Indian connect. So the entire Maldivian notes are Rupiah, and they are all polymer, the current set. So that is one case where it has the Indian connect, and the Singaporean notes, which are made from polymer, each of the notes have Tamil on them. So even those have Indian connects, and many of them feature Indians on the backside. Which Indian region language is in foreign currency notes? How many countries? Okay, so Krishnamurti sir, I already mentioned a lot, but still I will summarize it for you if you want. So Kaithi or Bhojpuri was used on notes of Mauritius. Hindi was used on notes of Mauritius and Russian Azerbaijan, the Soviet Socialist Republic. And then Tamil was used on Mauritius, on Singapore, Strait settlements, and a couple of other and on a couple of other countries as well, two, three more countries. And then Gujarati was on African notes of Zanzibar and British East Africa. So this is like a major summary. There are a few more as well. Yeah, so those are illegal issues according to me. So I have not included them here. I don't know, but yeah. So I think that's it. Thank you, and thank you everyone for joining, for attending my presentation, and all the best. Namaste. If you have any such connects, feel free to share with me. And once again, thank you everyone who helped me build this presentation.